Hello, I'm McGann, and welcome to another episode of There I Read It, where I'm going over the Harry Potter books chapter by chapter for the first time ever in my life. And today we are on Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire Chapter 18, which is called The Weighing of the Wands. And this felt like a particularly long info dump of a chapter. So let's jump right into the notes that I have for this one. Okay, last chapter ended with Ron seeming very irate with Harry for getting into the Triwizard Tournament and not letting him in on that secret. So Ron went to bed angry, and when Harry got up, Ron had already gone to breakfast without him, so Harry was alone. And Harry goes into the Gryffindor common room, and everybody's still like, yeah, Harry, that's awesome. And for whatever reason, Harry's like, well, I either go down to get breakfast or I have to go sit with the Creevy brothers who are trying to wave me over. And I don't understand why Harry is so desperate to snub the Creevy boys like they have done anything negative to him. I sort of get from the perspective of, well, I'm a fourth year and they're a third year and a first year, but still, you don't have to be an elitist jerk all the time. I mean, these are human beings that are interested in you and care about you. Maybe throw them a bone sometime and be a decent human being. Whether Harry wants to be a role model or not, that's exactly what he is, and he does not really act accordingly. Which, granted, he's also a teenager, he's in the 9th grade, so, behavior does not always match what we would like to see. But still, the Creevy kids have done nothing to Harry, and the book just acts like they should be hated for some reason. They're not even that annoying. I mean, they're just excited to be there. Come on, calm down. But so Harry leaves the common room, and Hermione's waiting out there with a stack of toast, and she's kind of telling Harry, let's avoid the dining hall right now, and Harry agrees, and they start walking around, and Hermione explains that Ron is jealous because Ron always has to compete for attention. He has all of those siblings at home, and then he comes to school and his best friend is Harry Potter, who is famous, and everybody is just clamoring for his attention or his demise, and Ron just always gets shoved off to the side and he's not special. And, that has to build up on somebody and hurt. And like Hermione says, it's just been one time too many that Ron feels like he's been left out of this experience and the secretiveness of it. And instead of taking that in and seeing Ron as an individual human being who is worthy of compassion, instead Harry just kind of gets mad and he's kind of a brat about it. Like, well, Ron needs to grow up, instead of actually considering that other human beings have feelings too. Again, I enjoy these books. I cannot really stand Harry. But then Hermione convinces Harry that he needs to be the one to tell Sirius what's going on. And Hermione mentions that it's almost like Sirius suspected something like this would happen. And it's just making me question, then why did they reinstate the Triwizard Tournament right now, while Voldemort is regathering power and Harry Potter's in school and there has been an attempt on his life every flippin' year? Why now do we particularly need to bring the Triwizard Tournament back? But Harry relents and he's like, fine, I'll write Sirius in his bratty little attitude. And he's like, I need a different owl though, because Sirius said that Hedwig is too conspicuous. So they go up to the owlry, Harry writes his note to Sirius, and Hedwig flies down, plops on his shoulder, and sticks out her leg for the message. And Harry's like, I can't, I have to use one of the school owls. And so now Hedwig is hurt and offended, more so than before, and she huffs off and will have nothing to do with Harry after this point. Like, she's just angry that she is not being chosen and she is a personal owl. That owl does not see anything but a slight against her. But then Harry is trying to go back to his normal school days, and he's, thinking about how this is the worst time he's had at Hogwarts since the second year, where everybody thought that he was involved with the basilisk situation. So all of the Hufflepuffs are very cold towards the Gryffindors because Cedric is a Hufflepuff, and they're like, that was our champion. That was Hogwarts champion. And now Harry's going in to steal the limelight, so they're not happy. And the Slytherins, they never really liked the Gryffindors or Harry, but Malfoy in particular is sort of gloating that half the champions have died. And again, it's like, WTF, why are we reinstating this tournament? And why now, where death-prone Harry Potter is visibly in the school? But then during Care of Magical Creatures, Hagrid brings out the Skrewts, who have gotten to be 3 foot long, and they're very powerful and hard to control. And Hagrid's like, well, they've got all this pent-up energy, so that's why they're killing each other, and they need to be walked, as if they're little doggies. And Hagrid finds an excuse to pull Harry over to the side, and he's basically like, look, you said you didn't enter Harry, so I believe you. And so Hagrid is the only person with his great, beautiful big heart that believes Harry did not do this himself. Well, I guess Hermione believes him, and kind of Ron, on a deeper rooted level, believes that Harry didn't turn himself into the Goblet of Fire. But, you know, all of the school, a lot of the teachers, most of the people in the wizarding world believe that Harry did this, you know, purposefully. His name was put in purposefully. And Harry is just having such a bad time with his classes right now that he even ends up with extra homework in charms. And they're like, well, Neville Longbottom's the only other person that got extra homework in charms. And it's like, come on, quit picking on Neville, okay? Can we go like 1 chapter without picking on my sweet baby Nevsy? And then the badges start to appear. And the badges, these little buttons, say, support Cedric Diggory, the real Hogwarts champion. But if you push them, the text morphs into Potter stinks. So of course everybody in Slytherin has these badges, and they're sort of taunting Harry with them. And Malfoy even offers a badge to Hermione, but he's also like, well, you're a filthy mudblood, so don't touch my hand, I just washed it. And Harry gets so angry and defensive over Hermione about this that he and Draco end up in this duel where Harry screams, Fernunculus, and he hits Goyle, which gets covered in boils and ends up looking like a mushroom type of creation. And Draco says Dinsalgio, and it hits Hermione, which makes her teeth huge. Like her 2 front teeth, which were already described as a little bit too big, are getting larger and larger until they're down to her collarbone area. They're gigantic. And Professor Snape comes out because this is all happening right before his class, right outside of his dungeon. And Snape sends Goyle to the hospital wing, but when he looks at Hermione and Ron sort of forces her hands away to show her gigantic teeth, Snape says, I see no difference. What a piece of petty fucking bitch. And Ron and Harry are also very upset by this reaction, so they both yell at Snape, and it's echoing off the walls so much that nobody can really make out what they're saying. But Snape catches enough of it to say 50 points from Gryffindor, and both Ron and Harry are getting detention. Now, I don't know what the process is for this sort of behavior at Hogwarts, but surely this is not appropriate behavior from a professor towards a student, and somebody, somewhere, should be handling that. But Hermione had run away, we assume, to the hospital wing, and everyone else goes into potions class, and they are working on antidotes. And Snape is saying how he's going to make them test their antidotes to basically save one of them. Like he's going to poison one kid from each house and hope that these antidotes work to make those students not die. And Snape is making eyes at Harry, so Harry's like, oh, he's going to start poisoning me, no. But Colin Creevey steps in and he's like, excuse me, Professor Snape, Mr. Bagman needs Harry right now. And after Snape kind of, protests and sneers about it, Harry gets to go up and it is the wand weighing ceremony. And Rita Skeeter is there from the Daily Prophet. She's in magenta robes with 2-inch long crimson nails and a crocodile handbag. And she's described as being pretty plump, which is very different than how I remember her in the movies. I mean, the way that Rita is described in the book, it just feels like, yeah, she should visually not be a very likable character. But in the movie, I remember thinking that she was very pretty. So I don't know if there's like a casting discrepancy there or if maybe I'm just remembering the wrong character. But Rita Skeeter gets Harry in a broom closet by herself with a quick quotes quill that basically takes notes of the situation while she is interviewing somebody, and it adds in details of like, oh, he looked longingly into her eyes and things like that. But the thing is, the quill is not necessarily accurate in a sense. Like it will say Harry has green eyes, but not necessarily describe what's happening with those eyes correctly. So Rita, she sort of leads the interview trying to get answers that she wants. and she lies with that quill saying like, oh, Harry's crying when he's not crying. But just as Harry is getting very, very at the end of his rope frustrated, Dumbledore walks in to start the weighing of the wands and gets Harry out of that situation. And the wand weigher is Mr. Ollivander himself. And his job is to basically look over the wands and test them to make sure that they're in proper shape before the tournament starts. Because the wands are the primary thing that all the wizards are allowed to use. So obviously, Ron's wand in year 2 that was snapped in half would not do for the Triwizard Tournament. That person would die. But I did think it was interesting. They described the wands in a lot of detail. So Fleur Delacour has a 9.5-inch rosewood inflexible wand that has a Vila hair in it that she says is her grandmother's. So she is part Vila, unless of course she was teasing right there, but it's interesting. And Ollivander makes mention that Vilas don't really give easy magical components to work with, so he has personally never used Vila hair. And then Cedric comes up. He has a unicorn tail hair from a male unicorn specifically. It is a 12.25-inch wand. It's made of ash and it's springy. Then Victor's wand is hornbeam and dragon heartstring. It's rigid and 10.25 inches. And Harry's is a holly wand that is 11 inches and a phoenix tail feather, which they restate again. That particular phoenix gave one other feather for a wand, and that ended up being Tom Riddle's wand, Voldemort's wand. And Harry's like, oh, I hope he doesn't say that part out loud. And he doesn't. Ollivander does not mention that, but it feels like that's going to be important later, as that is coming up for the first time in quite a few books. But they don't say what type of flexibility Harry's wand has. I think I remember them saying it was swishy, but maybe I'm mistaken. So the whole weighing of the wands process is over. They do a lot of pictures for the Daily Prophet. They do group pictures, and then Rita Skeeter wants to do individual pictures. And by the time Harry gets back to the Gryffindor common room, Ron's like, hey, an owl showed up for you, and we have detention tomorrow at Snape's dungeon. I wonder what that's going to be interesting. I don't know what he can possibly come up with, but I know it will be a ride, to say the least. But the owl that showed up, the school owl that Harry had sent to find Sirius, has a note from Sirius Black that says he wants to meet at 1 a.m. on November 22nd in the Gryffindor Tower. And how he's going to get in and out, I guess if he can shift into a dog, then that's maybe... I don't know. You would think of all the places in that school, he could have Harry meet him just about anywhere. But why go into the school and take that extra bit of risk when you could be like right outside or at the top of a tower or something like that? I mean, geez, they put more effort into hiding Norbert the Dragon than they do that Sirius Black is coming into Hogwarts again. What is the deal here? But that's the end of my notes for this chapter. Oh, my hand hurts. I just like wrote all these notes and just spent forever reading that. And oh my goodness. Yeah. I am not seeing anything at this moment that is piquing my interest in particular. I kind of wish that Mad Eye Moody had resurfaced a little bit more and we could have maybe had him pull Harry aside. But it's curious that we're talking about all these other classes and then Defense Against the Dark Arts is being particularly left out. But I'm sure there's more time for all of that as we move forward. And at this point, I will thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, and we will see you next time in Chapter 18, Fanily members. Bye! Well, Fanily members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that? Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Fanily. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Fanily and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, Fanily members. Bye.